Hi, this is Glenn Martin. I'm reviewing the book by Jenny Odell called How to Do Nothing. I review books that I think are interesting or that have something worthwhile to say. Usually they're both. How to Do Nothing was written by Jenny Odell, who's primarily an artist, not an author. She comes from Oakland, California, and this is her first book, which she was encouraged to write. It was published in 2019, and the subtitle is Resisting the Attention Economy. I bought my copy in Lifeline Bookshop in Hornsby in June 2021. It cost me $3. Just as an aside, the copy I bought has an inscription, a long inscription, inside the front cover in a language I don't know. Maybe it's Croatian. I don't know what it says. Does anybody speak Croatian? This is the contents for the book: the case for nothing, the impossibility of retreat, the anatomy of a refusal, exercises in attention, the ecology of strangers, restoring the grounds for thought, and the conclusion, manifest dismantling. What does all that mean? The case for nothing is her case for doing nothing. In other words, for doing nothing that's apparently productive. In chapter 2, she talks about the impossibility of withdrawing or retreating unless you're going to live in a cave. So in chapter 3, she talks about the anatomy of a refusal, which is a refusal to live life the way we are expected to, with dependence on digital devices. She follows that with some exercises in attention. Now that you're paying attention to real life, what does it look like? And that leads into chapter 5, which suggests that there's an ecology about the life around us, both people, physical environment, and in that sense, it is strange. And your process is the process of becoming familiar with things. And then in chapter 6, she's talking about restoring the grounds for thought, reinventing your own philosophy, if you like. The manifest dismantling is a reference to the concept of manifest destiny, which was big in the late 1800s, when there was the idea that Western civilization would bring progress to the entire planet and it would have its way. She's suggesting that it's time we looked at that again and dismantled it. Since releasing the book, Jenny has talked about the response to it. For a start, the book got lots of reviews, which she wasn't expecting. And so you can easily find the book on Amazon or Booktopia or other book sites. It seemed that the idea of doing nothing held an attraction for many people, or perhaps it was the idea of justifiably doing nothing, but important. And then Jenny got sucked into the attention economy herself. People wanted to see her, they wanted to talk to her, they wanted to interview her, so she spoke at conference, she talked on the radio, lots of things. And she herself could see the irony of this, the irony of a person who was a self, who was not a brand, becoming a brand that sells a book about not being a brand. Great irony. It was like the mythological creature, the Ouroboros, like a snake that eats itself. It starts with its own tail. But the central proposition remains. We live in a society where our attention is monetized. Somebody is turning it into money. The corporations are vying for our attention every moment of the day. And if you could be there for 24 hours a day, that would be wonderful for them. And they cultivate our addiction to technical devices. They are clever at this. Jenny's solution is not retreat or withdrawal, but refusal in place. That is to say, to pay attention to what is real, that is, natural around us, what is here and now. And the story that she tells about that is going to the Rose Garden in Oakland, California, close to where she lives. It was in the wake of Donald Trump getting elected as American president in 2016 and feeling devastated and finding herself going to the Rose Garden every day, not to do anything, not to tour, not to read a book, but just to sit there and be. But this is not a how-to book about digital detox. That's been done. And she has some funny stories to tell about that too. My take is, it's a book about living well from a thoughtful and creative perspective, and a liberating perspective, unlike the photo of her that you see there, where she is doing the thing that the digital world requires, not happily. One of the gems of her explorations is this. What do you see? There's a woman with a bucket and water washing the steps in front of a building. Who is she? She's actually an artist whose work is currently on display in that building. But the theme of her work is to value the maintenance functions of life. That we have been seduced and entranced by the novelty of the new, that everything has to manifest newness, whereas most of the things in life are maintenance functions, looking after the house, cleaning up, doing the things that need to be done every day, the routine things. These are the things that need to be valued. These are the things that you notice when you are not constantly distracted by a digital device. So, Jenny Odell, How to Do Nothing. I think it's a great book. Yeah. Cory Doctorow, who's been a commentator on lots of things for a long time now, said, your chaotic, fraught internal weather isn't an accident. It's a business model. And while thoughtful resistance isn't productive, Odell proves that it is utterly necessary. I kind of agree with that. I think Jenny Odell has a compelling proposition, and she has a host of engaging stories to make the point. Yes, it's a story we already know. We need to recover ourselves in the midst of a busy and relentlessly profit-oriented world. But she gives us a refreshing take on the story. She's a young writer, and yet she, I think, is remarkably mature in what she presents, and she's read widely and read lots of things that I found very interesting. Good stuff.